All right, we're going to get started because I know we have a lot to go through today, and I know we're going to still have some folks that are going to be coming in as we get started. But I think it's important for us to try and keep on schedule for everybody's busy schedules. If I don't know you or you don't know me personally, as it says right there underneath my face, I'm Adam Pearl. I'm president and CEO of ArtPride New Jersey, and really truly appreciate you taking the time this morning to be with us. We have a ton of good information for our first webinar of 2021. I want to encourage folks to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of their screen or top of their screen, but within the Zoom there, to ask questions. We will do our best to answer as many as we can, either live or by replying to you or by putting information in the chat feature. So also please keep your eye on the chat feature. We're also about to post into the chat feature. I believe one of the staff is going to post in there closed captioning information. So there it goes. There's the captioning link for today. If anyone needs that, please go ahead and use that. So questions and answers there. And we have sort of two halves of our webinar today. So if you have questions related to Anne-Marie's update here at the front around advocacy, please do your best to ask those up front. But we will do our best. And if we can't get to your question during our time together, we have been known to follow up via email afterwards too. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Anne-Marie Miller, ArtPride's Director of Advocacy and Public Policy. Anne-Marie, it is all you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Adam. So happy New Year to everybody, or as some people might say, December 46th today of 2021. It kind of feels like a continuation. We've dealing with everything from images of National Guard at the Capitol to listening to Dr. Fauci tell us, we will get out of this will end, we will get back to normal, which we're all, on the road towards and working it real hard. Just some updates on what's going on out there, just in case you've missed it in the news. There are current test situations for indoor performances happening around the world, in Spain and in Germany, in terms of what will work with the health precautions being held to in terms of using masks and with closer social undistancing. So, we're watching all of this very carefully. The National Endowment for the Arts just this week released this publication called The Art of Reopening. It is, a guide to current practices that are being used. The Berkshire Theater Group is featured in here. Our earlier webinar last year when Nick Paleologos gave us some information as to how they dealt with the pandemic to be able to have the production of Godspell. I'll warn you ahead of time, this is a really dense document. There are case studies in there, but it's really valuable. So the link is there. And if you go to arts.gov and just, search for the Art of Reopening, I'm sure you'll find it. So the new federal COVID relief package that was released since our last webinar during this sort of crazy time has the first round of a new round of Paycheck Protection program so that there are second draws available, and that actually has already begun. A newly replenished EIDL loan through the Economic Development Authority, a new Shuttered live venue operators grant, they're calling SVOG, and that is $15 billion in there, $2 billion of which is being held aside for small operators with less than 50 full-time employees. New pandemic unemployment assistance, new stimulus checks, and we're going to have an even further update on some of this. New expanded and extended charitable tax deductions, and retroactive and upcoming NEA and NEH grants that can be awarded for general operating support rather than specific projects. And then the National Defense Bill was reauthorized, and for the very first time includes creative art therapies within the US Department of Defense. As you may have heard last night, and I think, did I spell administration right? The Biden-Harris team has announced the American Rescue Plan, which is almost $2 trillion. And so, in comparison to what we've just looked at, you can see that there's, an emphasis on the vaccine program and testing. There is funding for schools to safely reopen, emergency paid leave to cover employers with over 500 and less than 50 employees, sick and family medical leave time, increase to $1,400 in direct payments, unemployment insurance supplement, a big thing on the eviction and foreclosure moratorium, an increase in SNAP benefits and WIC, a $15 national minimum wage, a piece of this, and then $350 billion in emergency state local funding. So, which has been a bone of contention all along, that funding is supposed to support frontline workers, but also $3 billion of that is going to the Economic Development Authority for job creation. So there are opportunities here. I just want to let you know that that your part-time controller has a webinar this afternoon at 1 p.m. and they've offered a unique link for ArtPride members to attend. And that link is there regarding PPP loan forgiveness and the new regulations. So I think we have a poll question, but if you are interested in seeing another webinar on PPP, please let us know. To PPP or not to PPP, I like that. And I'm gonna keep moving because we got a lot, and guess what? Guess what? That froze my computer. Stop share, sorry. We're gonna go back.
Anne-Marie, I'm just jumping in to say that I'm going to put that link in the chat for everybody.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, here we go. So the SVOG Shuttered Venue grants, there was a 13-minute SBA webinar yesterday, and these are the eligible applicants that can be included in there. The big decision really is, do you apply or do you get SVOG and PPP? Right now, the guidelines are that you can apply for both, but you can only get one. SBA was kind of clear yesterday that the applications are not yet ready, but there's a lot of pressure on them to get information out to the public. So if you have questions, use that link below, SVOG grant at SBA.gov, and put your topic of your question in the subject because they're sorting them based on the topic. All right, back to what's happened in New Jersey. The ArtPride website is updated. We are now working on making sure that, Governor Murphy, who has been supportive of the arts through his tenure, is, continuing to include funding at the levels of the law. And you might remember, actually, it was a year ago yesterday that the law was passed to increase minimum appropriations for arts, history, and tourism. And this action alert is there to urge him towards that goal. And when you go to the action alert page, you'll get some history on the bill that'll give you all the information as to what the current minimums are and what the appropriations were for FY21 and what we are working towards in FY22 and beyond. We'll also be posting these new documents that we've gotten from Americans for the Arts that actually provide a lot of statistics on the creative economy and the impact of COVID-19. So this includes nonprofits and for-profits. We'll have these linked on our COVID page. There is a real push towards putting creative workers to work, and Americans for the Arts has combined the documents that were part of the transition team urging creative workers to work, and a bill that has not yet been drafted, but is called the Defend Art Workers Now Dawn Act. That's part of the Be an Arts Hero movement. And so if you want more information on those two platforms, there are links here, and we will also post these in our COVID page. All right, go ahead.
Amory, can you go back a couple of slides? That link, the other website you offered right after YPTC. Yep, that's the one. Oh, the SBA one. Next slide. SBA. What is that? SBA.gov / coronavirus. I will put that. Someone just asked what that was. They missed it there. Okay. So I'll put that one in the chat in addition to the YPTC.
Okay.
We had one other question before we go on to the other portion of our presentation today. And Gwen was asking, have you heard of the Dramatists Guild's new letter writing initiative? It's cool for all kinds of artists. And she put the link there. And that is part of Be an Arts Hero and their effort. And I was actually wondering if you could just touch on the fact of how we've been in touch with various grassroots organizations that have popped up, including Be an Arts Hero and NIVA and New Jersey NIVA and all of those.
Sure. Yeah, we've been in touch with NIVA and Jay, but I actually have a phone call after this webinar with Rachel Chafkin and Jenny Coons, who did the petition that has 10,000 signatures for, this new, please put a cabinet level position in the White House related to arts and culture, which has been kind of relegated to the theater community. We're trying to explode that a little bit for the rest of the arts community. So, we're continuing all these conversations. I know, Broadway and Dramatists Guild, I know that the actors, the theater community has been very active in this. Okay. So this concludes the advocacy portion of today's webinar, and I want to introduce Diane Felson. Diane's career has been focused on using the arts to make meaningful experiences. She has served as curator of education at the Telfair Museum of Art in Savannah, Georgia, followed by over a decade as the associate director of Perkins Center for the Arts in Moorestown and Collingswood. As a program officer at the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, Diane manages the crafts, multidisciplinary arts, and visual arts grant portfolios. Diane earned her Bachelor of Arts in Art History from Chestnut Hill College, a master's in museum education from University of the Arts in Philadelphia, and a certificate of nonprofit management from the Nonprofit Center at LaSalle University School of Business. So welcome, Diane. We're gonna shift it over to you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for sharing part of your morning with me today to learn a little bit more about the Arts Council's COVID Critical Needs Program. Anne-Marie, if you can just move to the next slide. So Critical Needs Program, I'll just keep talking while we're getting that set up. This is, the acronym of, we love acronyms, is CCN. It's a single year grant program that's providing support for COVID-19 personal protective equipment and safeguarding needs. It was designed to assist organizations with some of the expenses associated with inviting the public back into your facility. We've spent a season keeping the public outside, and now we're starting to develop plans to bring the people back in, and that's what this opportunity is all about. So, okay, we're back. So the pandemic closed us down in March, and the Arts Council has been researching global, national, regional effects of COVID on arts, safety recommendations that have been released, executive orders, health guidelines, research studies, countless articles. We've been talking with grantees, communities of practice, the Arts and Culture Recovery Working Group with the governor, and countless stakeholders. And we quickly realized we needed to serve the field through recovery funds. You can move on in. So like I mentioned, this is designed for the organizations who are our reality, what we're dealing with right now. We are reopening while addressing public health, something that we've never really had to think about before. So as the sector begins to reopen, there's safety supplies and equipment that are brand new expenses. They've never been part of organizational budgets before. And on top of that, many of these PPE needs and safeguarding equipment is part of the guidance that you're seeing from the executive orders and the health guidelines. So we've been talking with the field, and we know that there's been a lot of difficulty identifying funds in operating budgets to purchase this equipment. And so this program was specifically designed to help ease that burden. And I'm hoping that all of you today will become interested and apply. We realize that reopening is a moving target for many of us right now. This is an opportunity for you to think ahead. What needs will you have when you are ready to reopen? Even if you're not ready to reopen in the spring, in the summer, maybe you're waiting till the fall or the winter. What will you need? What will you need in order to reopen? What do you know right now that will be really helpful and useful once you start bringing the public back inside? If we can move on to the next slide. So as I said, this is designed to assist with the expenses of inviting the public back in. It's designed to help New Jersey nonprofit organizations that have an arts-based mission, a facility that's open to the public. There is a whole package of information that you can find on the Arts Council website. The guidelines for this program, they contain all the links and all the essential information about eligibility. So please review those. You can move on. So CCN can support PPE supplies, safeguarding equipment, and how you can comply with the executive orders. There is a narrative in the application, and we really would like to see how the supplies and equipment in your project budget are addressing the hazards associated with COVID, how this is helping you open to the public, and if the supplies and equipment that you're attempting to purchase are listed in any guidelines, executive orders, or safety recommendations. I just would like to point out that this is for new expenses, supplies and equipment that you haven't had to really think about before. So ongoing multiple programs, general operations, capital campaigns, this is not for that. Next slide. So I wanted to share some examples of eligible equipment. This is a non-exhaustive list, so please don't think that these are the only things that you can apply for, but just some examples of things that you could be thinking about right now. Face masks, face shields, sanitizer, screening devices, disinfecting supplies, plexi panels, marking devices to make sure people are social distancing, air filters, single room HEPA air purifiers, touch-free equipment. This includes touch-free equipment for your restroom facilities, disinfectant mist machines. And if any of this equipment requires a licensed contractor to install it, that expenses for that installation from that contractor can also be covered. Next slide. I wanted to point out the same news that Anne Marie pointed out earlier today. Dr. Fauci was recently addressing the Association of Performing Arts Professionals. And in that session, he mentioned that if things go well with this vaccine rollout, there's a strong possibility that the theaters could be reopening in the fall. What I wanted to point out was he stressed that that could happen if the audience members continue to wear masks and if the theaters have really great air ventilation. So again, if you have spaces that usually accommodate large groups of people and improving your air filtration or buying some single room HEPA air purifiers would help. This grant opportunity could help you with some of those expenses. Next slide, thank you. Some examples of ineligible expenses. We've been receiving questions about these two specific topics, so I wanted to just bring them up. Tents are not an eligible expense for this program. The primary reason is that tents are designed for outside, and the intent of this program is to help with the cost of bringing people back in. So think about indoor equipment. air filtration, plexi, social distance signage, some of the things that I mentioned earlier. They're all examples of indoor equipment that would be eligible. The same goes for cleaning services. So the services to clean are not eligible because the program is not supporting services or consultant fees. However, supplies, the disinfecting supplies would be eligible for this program. Grant amount would be 7% of your organizational budget from fiscal year 19, that's pre-COVID, or a maximum of $20,000. So if you take a look at the guidelines that I mentioned earlier on our website, they specify all the different eligibility requirements, but I did want to point out some things that are different from other grant opportunities that have been available from the council. For CCN, multi-county impact is not a requirement. Organizations who currently receive support from the council or through local arts program support are invited to apply. Organizations who do not receive Arts Council support or local arts program support, but who meet eligibility requirements are invited to apply. So this is for local organizations as well as regional organizations. For this program, colleges, universities, municipalities, and their programs are not eligible. Next slide, thank you. So we have a long list of program guidelines that you can find on our website, like I mentioned earlier. I do want to list a couple eligibility requirements. These are just a few examples. The full list, again, is online. Some things that we'll be looking for to be eligible for the program is a budget of at least $75,000 in fiscal year 19. An owned or rented location that provides access to the public. So if your location is only for office space, it's not eligible. But if you are serving the public in any way, it is. And a COVID-19 policy and procedure plan that's in compliance with the New Jersey executive orders and the Department of Health guidelines. The grants are available between April 1st and June 30th of this year. I'd like you to note that eligible expenses are from July 1st of 2020 to June 30th of this year. So please, this is, again, different from other programs. We are allowing you to include eligible expenses that you may have already made for your organization. So if you made them as early as July 1st of 2020, you may include those expenses in your program budget. The only thing that we are asking for is if expenses have already been made, your support materials will need to include an itemized list of those expenses and proof of purchase. This is, again, like I've been saying, totally different. We're in a new world. We are not using Sage for this program. So please keep in mind that we have very specific instructions on how to submit your application, which you can review in the guidelines. This is being submitted via email, one email. All your attachments, everything has to be in one email, and it's being sent to the address you see here, covidcriticalneeds@sos.nj.gov. The deadline is coming up. It's January 28th at 4 p.m. Extensions are not available. Please keep in mind that an organization can only submit one application. We'll be looking for a cover sheet, a narrative, financial materials, and support materials. Next slide. So the cover sheet is just the basic details about your organization and your grant ask. There is a narrative component. It's limited. It's not to 3 pages. That's not required. And you can do less. And then approximately 11,000 characters. So we have a series of questions there that we'll be asking you to answer and recommended character limits with each of those questions. You will find the narrative and cover sheet in one attachment download in the guidelines. It's the application form. The financial materials are a series of attachments that we'll be asking for. That includes your organizational budget for this year, your fiscal year 19 audit, financial review, or 990, the project budget, which you'll find an attachment to a budget form in the guidelines, and if you're including expenses that have already incurred, an itemized list of those expenses and proof of purchase. So in addition to those financial materials, when you're looking at that attachment form, you'll see a package of support materials that we'll be looking for. So read the application for all of those details. One that I'd like you to be aware of is something that's a little different, and that's your COVID-19 policy and procedure plan. Next slide. So what is that? This is something new. So we are not looking for a depth or a breadth of your plan. It's not being assessed. This is all we're looking for. We're looking for any type of policy or procedure plan that your organization has developed that's detailing how your organization is addressing COVID safety. The required elements that we will be checking for: details on how the policies and procedures address the New Jersey executive orders, details on how they address the Department of Health guidelines, your employee training process on these policies and procedures, and optional would be details on how these are following guidelines and regulations that you've found from professional associations that you're affiliated with. I've listed a package of web resources here. Just a reminder, this slide deck is going to be shared later today. So all of these links are active links and you'll be able to access all of these sites when looking at the slide deck. So the state of New Jersey has a website to help you with identifying the kinds of PPE needs your type of organization would need. There's also a website that explains the executive orders and Department of Health guidelines and the New Jersey workplace safety standards, which my understanding is this is an expectation of all businesses operating in the state. And then here are just some links for some of those things that you're going to be including with your support materials: your charities registration update, which is how you're going to request that charities registration letter, your online renewal with the Division of Revenue. You do have to be in compliance with the Division of Revenue. And NJSCA, that's what the state uses to pay you. So if you are lucky enough to receive a grant, NJSCA registration would be required. So again, just a few reminders. The eligible expenses for the COVID Critical Needs Program are for supplies and equipment, not services. All the required forms are found in download links that you'll find in the guidelines. The guidelines are on the Arts Council website. The guidelines also have a link to the application form, the program budget form. The application form has all the details on the support materials that are required. You'll also find links to an FAQ and a glossary in the guidelines. Please read those. They will really be helpful with helping you put together your application. And again, this is due January 28th, 4 p.m., COVID critical needs at sos.nj.gov. And again, please visit our website frequently. There is a ongoing list of opportunities for organizations for COVID relief, grant support, program support, and the council keeps that updated on a regular basis and available on our website. So please be sure to check frequently. And I just want to say many of my colleagues are on this call right now, and we all welcome your questions at any time. We want to hear from you. We are working remotely, but our phone numbers are being forwarded to our landlines, our cell phones, whatever we have here, and we want to hear from you. So please, you are welcome to call us. If you currently don't have a relationship with a program officer at the Arts Council, you can find a list of all of our names, emails, and phone numbers on our website. And thank you. With that, I'll take questions.
Okay, thank you, Diane. All right, so we do have a few questions and then a few more tend to jump in. And so I apologize if you're going to be repeating information. Perhaps someone jumped in late or like I did, or I know sometimes happens to you. They might have been interrupted by one of their smaller coworkers at home. So, all right, so here we go. So Lisa Campbell asked, is this funding available to college/university presenters?
No, this is not available to colleges or universities.
All right. Audrey Carmelli asks, would touch-free equipment include touch-free ticket scanners or just things like restroom items?
If you can back it up in your narrative, that's how we can confirm. So from the little bit that I'm hearing right now, I don't see why not. It might be worth a deeper conversation with a program officer.
Gotcha. Sam Scalamoni. Hey, Sam. Wants to know, would this work for an organization that does not own the facility but leases space for events and productions?
Yes, it's if you're leasing space that's inviting the public in, it works, and it would be for equipment for those public areas.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm just like okay. So both Grace Shackney and Martha Frampton are kind of asking the same question in a different way. Grace is asking, so is this for organizations with a budget of $70,000 or more. And Martha was asking, is there any comparable program to support smaller arts organizations? And for what it's worth, Martha's referring to that now as the Felson plan.
I appreciate that. I will have to do a little bit of digging to see if there's programming available for organizations with smaller budgets than the $75,000. I'm not aware of it at the top of my head, but I don't know for sure. But yes, for this program, the lowest your budget can be is in fiscal year 19, $75,000 or above.
I know this is unrelated to the work you're doing, Diane, but I'm just making me think out loud that I know that the New Jersey Arts and Cultural Recovery Fund did have like a provision for folks to be re-grantors, and that quite a number of organizations that do that in the state were applying for that so they could get money to smaller organizations. And then I would, as I'm sure you would too, encourage any small organization to make sure they have a relationship with their local county cultural and heritage organization, because there may be grant opportunities there too.
Absolutely.
Ellie Porter Trubert is asking, hi Ellie, we are already partially open. Can the grant be used to reimburse PPE expenses already incurred?
As long as they took place on July 1st of 2020 until now. So if you purchased the equipment in June of 2020, that would not qualify in this budget. But if you purchased it after July 1st, then yes. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. All right, so we have Alice Levington Cantor, who's asking, is this grant available for nonprofit community choruses?
Courses as classes?
No, choruses like.
Oh, chorus. Yeah. If the chorus leases, it's a nonprofit, you have to have an arts-based mission, and you have to either own or lease a facility that's providing access to the public. So if you're touring, that probably wouldn't work. But if you have a permanent facility where you're presenting your choral work, then yes.
All right. And I am, I'm just looking at the chat and the questions and answers. So here we go. Mike Stotts from Paper Mill Playhouse and a member of ArtPride's Board of Trustees. Hi, Mike. Was asking, can we use this grant to pay for COVID testing kits?
How are you using, your grant would have to explain how you're using it. And again, might need a deeper conversation with your program officer. It's definitely worth the conversation because I don't see why not. But I can't say yes or no until we see more details.
Gotcha. Karen Hollywood was asking, can you clarify the expenses time frame? Was that April 1 to June 30th time frame mentioned earlier in the presentation?
So this is what's different. Typically, the grant period always echoes what the eligible expenses are, because we know so many people did jump to reopen in the summer when some of the restrictions were eased. We made it so that even though the grant period is April of this year until June 30th of this year, your eligible expenses in your program budget can begin as early as July 1st of 2020. So if you purchase stuff, you have proof of purchase, then you can include that in your project budget and get reimbursed.
Absolutely. And I just, to echo the comment from earlier, because I think it's important for you to hear the feedback, Kathleen Wyatt was also asking about smaller organizations, in particular asking about small historical societies who are stewards of small museums that are now closed to the public. So just some thought there too. Your colleague, Michelle Baxter-Schaefer, shared it, which is a good point too, that obviously on your website, and you have the State Arts Council website, and in your newsletter, resources for the field, and I should say too, the resources for individual artists, as well as ArtPride has on its webpage the COVID resources. So there were a few people here in the questions and answers. I'm trying to compile them that were looking for other resources, for instance, for theater employees who've been out of work. That's what Patrice Baldino was asking about. So thank you, Michelle, for reminding us of that. All right, so
just really quick, Adam. With historic facilities, you know, this is an arts-based program, obviously, but I do encourage anyone that's smaller, like you said earlier, contact your county cultural and heritage commission. Also, feel free to contact the New Jersey Heritage Commission, our colleagues at the Department of State. they might, I'm not aware of all the opportunities they're making available, but they might have some resources.
So a couple more questions here. So Alexandra Pieroni, sorry, Alexandria, if I messed up your last name there. Can we use this funding for artist PPE? Our dancers currently use PPE when rehearsing and performing. Our studio is not regularly open to the public, but we have had visitors watch rehearsals from time to time.
You really need to be an organization that has a facility that's open to the public during non-COVID times. So I think we probably have to just have a deeper conversation, because I'm not completely familiar with the scenario and your organization. So if you're just talking about during rehearsal, they're not in your public building, but you also have a public facility, we can talk further.
Absolutely. So we had, no, that's great. We had an anonymous attendee ask, our situation is unique as we don't have a lease, but have a divestiture agreement. Should we include the entire agreement in the application?
Yes.
Or like more information, the better. When it comes
Yeah.
to, right. Can't hurt. Okay. So John Keith Davis. So we appreciate John. John always asks tough questions. John says, it can be difficult to plan for and invest in resources in-person arts events if part of the government is offering support and other parts of the government are encouraging the public to avoid leaving their homes at the same time. You know what I mean? Question mark. So, just thinking about the duality of the situation.
I completely understand. And I also understand that forecasting when you have a moving target for reopening is very, very difficult. But I think we can all agree that some of these circumstances where people are more aware of expecting air quality, expecting sanitation, expecting cleaner bathroom facilities, expecting touchless equipment, I think we can all agree that this probably won't be going away. It might just become a customer service. Who knows? Like if we start really thinking forward and future, being a little futuristic here, think if you want to put some touchless equipment in your restroom, if you want to make sure that you have sanitizer on hand, like think about what you might need when you have to reopen. I'm a big fan of these HEPA air purifiers. I don't, especially in the arts, I think they have multi-purpose and could be very useful for most of us.
So we had just had two questions come in that are kind of very similar in terms of timing. Aaron Roche from Montclair Film Festival and Aylin Green are both. So Aaron was asking, if we're planning to open in fall 2021, pending CDC guidelines, can the grant cover costs to prepare for the space to be safe for fall? Meaning, is it okay we aren't open to the public this summer? And Aylin was sort of asking the same thing. Do funds need to be used by June 30th, 2021? And she's also asking about reporting, but if you could talk about sort of like timing when people are spending versus when things are happening and they're opening.
The money needs to be spent, but you don't have to be open. I hope that makes sense. So you may know that you need air filters and you're not going to be reopening until the fall, but you can go ahead and buy those air filters and have them stored or install them early. Same goes for some of this touchless equipment and things like that. We will be doing reporting. There's a final report that will be included 30 days after the completion of the grant period. So that's like in July. And we'll be asking for an itemized, just like those of you who are getting reimbursed for the expenses that are already incurred, you'll be supplying an itemized list of expenses and proof of purchase. So you do need to spend the money, but if you're planning ahead for fall or winter, that's okay.
So Diane, you almost answered the question I was going to ask, which is when do you expect that the funds will be available?
April. That is my hope.
Perfect. We have one more question here, and then I know we're coming up against time. We'd like to keep it tight for folks. So Zach Bluntner asked, we're looking to do outdoor events. Does that qualify?
This is to bring the public into your facility. So you can have outdoor events, but the equipment and the supplies are for indoor use. So are you having outdoor events, but are they still coming in to use your bathroom? Are you having outdoor events, but are you still selling tickets inside? Think about things like that.
That's it. That's the interrogation, I think, is complete, Diane. That said, I want to emphasize, for what it's worth, the great staff that the New Jersey State Council on the Arts has and how great the program managers are. And so if you have very specific questions, as I'm sure lots of folks do, I encourage you to reach out to those program managers. They're very available. They want to answer all your questions, and you can, have a one-on-one question and answer session. But we appreciate that. Thank you, Diane, for your time.
Thank you. And yeah, I just want to echo, everyone is welcome to contact me or my colleagues at the Arts Council at any time with any questions related to this opportunity.
Thanks, Diane. I just want to remind everybody that the COVID resource page will have all this information. Also, that you need to go to Jersey Arts events to see what's happening now. And the last thing I wanted to say, until I saw the exit survey pop up, which now I totally forgot, is we're planning our next webinar next month. If you have ideas of what you'd like us to focus on, please let us know. I thank you, Diane, for all the really excellent, detailed information. And everybody have a good weekend. Look forward to next week and the promise of a new inauguration and everybody's prayers for our country right now. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Diane. Thank you, Anne Marie. Everybody take care.